November 2025. And just like that, we're 4 days into the penultimate month of the year. Where is the time going? I have no idea. But hey, I'm learning to live in the moment. And that's what we're all about this morning, taking a look at the stories in the papers making the headlines. Analysis will follow, as well as your thoughts and contributions, which you can share with us on WhatsApp and on YouTube as well. The WhatsApp number is 0911 YouTube, you can find us at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Leave your comments there as usual, and let's get this show on the road. My name is Ayokunmi Kekirieko. It's great to be here with you once again. Good morning to you. Already planting himself on WhatsApp there. Looking forward to all the messages that will come in this morning. All right, Chibuzor is in the studio with me this morning to take a look at the stories, and of course, maybe fireworks as well. Just getting through what's to come in the papers. He's smiling already. Chibuzor, good morning to you.
Good morning. I'll try not to keep my guns blazing. I think I'll leave that for the orange man somewhere far away.
The orange man. Goodness gracious. Well, we're talking about the orange man. We're kind of going to begin this morning. Still talking about those issues, if you know what I mean. And the punch is where this is coming from. Uh, it says that 12 northern governors, prominent traditional rulers, and senior judges are at the center of a looming diplomatic storm as the United States Congress considers a bill that could impose far reaching sanctions on them for alleged complicity in what American lawmakers describe as, or have described as, the Christian genocide and systematic or systemic persecution under Nigeria's Sharia and blasphemy laws. Now, this follows the designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern by President Donald Trump and his instruction to the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, to act without delay. Um, so this is in the ongoing saga where Nigeria, the U.S. are actually concerned, bearing in mind the killings that have been happening in the country. I've heard different thoughts on this particular matter. I've spoken to different people, and some people have said that going in this direction, that this is probably the best way that a splash can actually be made in terms of dealing with this issue. Not necessarily coming into the country or this and that, that you need to hit the political elite where it hurts. Sanctions, revoking of their visas, not letting them, should I say, bring monies into their countries and so on and so forth. I mean, is that an assertion that you would agree with looking at what is on the cards here?
Um, I'm going to be very picky about my choice of words here this morning. So we're discussing the CPC and related issues, and CPC, which is not the party, but a country of particular concern. And all of a sudden, Nigerians have woken up to the fact that something is happening from every corner of the country. Either those who are in support, those who are against, those who are sitting in the middle, you know, and there's various thoughts around this. Um, I do think that, and I do believe that we have gotten to the point where our leaders appear not to prioritize the right things at the right times. We have gotten to the point where people have taken over that politics, and it's not just a leadership problem, because when we say leaders or leadership, we always think about those guys, either the governors, the people in executive positions of power. But it's also a followership problem because the followers are part of the challenge. You know, we've heard a lot, we have heard very little from the leaders since these pronouncements were made, I think last week over the weekend. But we've heard a lot from followers, from supporting them and trying to drown out what seems to be either opposition or questions around this position. I do think, honestly, that there is a place to hold people accountable by pushing sanctions on these individuals, either they be the governors, be the judges, be these people. You know, simply because our president has spent a good chunk of this year flying in and out of the country to various places. his position and the supporters' position has been he needs to go and draw more investments into the country. Now, what you're having is basically what is the biggest economy in the world, biggest papa and co telling you that hey, your country isn't safe. So if you put that side by side by the messaging that the government has been trying to push in terms of trying to bring in investments, how would you, as an American who places his trust on what is coming from his official government quarters, would you pick up your money and take it to Nigeria at the moment? Or if you are British or any of the countries that are favorable to the US,
Mm.
if you are a citizen of those states, would you look at the messaging coming out from the government, from the American government, and would you put your investments in Nigeria today? Even for Nigerians in Nigeria, Nigerians in diaspora, I do know several people who have left the country in the last 5 to 10 years simply because of the security situation in the country is not what they had or what they were used to when they were much younger, when they had in their previous lives in this country. I had a colleague who was basically used to go into panic when her husband would travel to parts of the north where he used to do business.
Huh.
And she came from somewhere in the middle belt, but she was at some point she had actually, what, we're done. Let's leave this country. You know, I have colleagues who are planning on doing road trips. That people want to go and see the beauty of Nigeria, but they cannot step out of their small corners in Lagos or the southwest because even when we say the southwest, out of the corners of Lagos, because they're a bit afraid that I do not know what is going to happen. I cannot predict with certainty what is going to happen when I go past those expressways into parts of the north, parts of the east, even expressways on the southwest. And that is how far we have gone, or how low we have gone in terms of security management in this country. We've gone from a country where we used to be certain that you could go by night from one place to the other without the worst thing that could have happened to you were armed robbers, and there were solutions to these problems, and you even had security forces coming to rout those. Now there are a myriad of issues that you could go into. Now, like back to the point of the story, that see anybody is going to come and try and sort in the problem. I think the anything that takes us closer to a solution to the problem for me within sense is good enough. If you put sanctions on the guys and hit them where it matters, for instance, like I said earlier, our president likes to travel a lot. A lot of his governors like to disappear in and out. There are some governors that probably spend more time in some of the fancy spots in the world than they spend in their own state capitals. So hitting them, and not just hitting them directly, also hitting their children and their families. Because a lot of these guys, for instance, there's a reason why our educational system. So, but yeah, I would even ask that US shouldn't even stop by doing it themselves. They should call in their pals of the UK. Let the sanctions be widespread. Because maybe when these guys start understanding that, you know, if things go bad in the country, I can easily take a flight out of the country into my usual holiday spots. When they know that option is gone, maybe somewhere or somehow they would start looking inwards and say, no, let me put some effort into solving this problem because it's in my interest. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe they need to be hitting where their pockets are, where their numerous accounts are sitting, their various holiday spots. Maybe when those sanctions hit them as individuals, then they will pay attention.
When you said as long as it's within sense. Now, I mean that could be relative. I mean how much is too much
So
in this regard?
I'm still sitting somewhere in the middle. I'm one of those people that's sitting somewhere in the middle when it comes to the foreign intervention in terms of like what the arrangement said, when with all guns blazing, because we have seen the effects of this widespread thing. So a lot of people point to when they kidnapped an American citizen, they came in, they rescued their citizen, they went back, they have the intelligence, they have this. Those are targeted attacks. What we do not want is something that would escalate into something bigger that Nigeria is not designed to contain. And guess what? Once the numbers start piling up, your foreign interventionists would all find their way back to their country after taking whatever they've taken. So when there's a lot of Nigerians saying, "Oh, let's come together to stop this or stand," I think we all need to come together. And that's my position. That Where have all this coming together been for this long? Why haven't we come together to put pressure on the government? Why haven't we put come together to put pressure on the government to do the right things? We might not have trust in the government, but the truth is that I don't see the governments changing their position because of the way a lot of leader followers follow through on these issues in Nigeria. You see too many people who think that what we are living in is normal. So that's why. So yes, there are stories about sovereignty, but if you look at the US's track record and their allies, their track records in going around the world, it always gives me a sense of caution when asking them, when supporting something that means that they have to put boots on the ground
Mm.
and stay for an extended period to take actions.
It's never a straightforward thing.
So it's and see, if you launch one bullet, there's a cost to it. There's nobody who's going to do that for free. If you
Mm.
launch one jet, there is an enormous cost to it. And the current state of mind of the American taxpayers and the American politics basically tells you that hey, we're not going to do anything for free.
Hmm.
So is Nigeria ready to pay the price? People are saying, "Oh, we're already paying the price in terms of lives, in terms of security, in terms of safety." And as someone who is not far from that reality, because I do have a lot of people who live in a lot of those areas, and I have witnessed it almost first or second hand. I understand that position, but you also have to look at what are you sacrificing to solve that problem? But does that problem needs to be solved? Yes. I'm hoping that this action, this comments would be the kick in the back of the behind of the government and its various agencies to actually solve the problem.
Hmm.
But you never can tell with with the people that run the country today and the governments that run our governments around, because we've basically been living with this issue for too long and we've normalized it, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, it's become something very normal. I was talking to Jules before we came on air, and this whole arrangement feels it feels like a grown individual, probably living with his parents and then still being told, by his parents to go and clean your room, go and clean your room. Ideally, he should not be told because he's a grown man. That's the analogy that I used, and I think it's one that actually is very apt where this particular issue is concerned. I'm still talking about this issue, but in another facet of it. It's in the vanguard we're stepping to now, and the minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Somwike, has been speaking now. He has accused opposition leaders of being behind the Christian genocide allegation against President Tinubu's administration. Like he made the claim during an appearance on Channels Television and their Politics Today show. That was last night. Now he accused the opposition of plotting to divide Nigerians because they know they cannot defeat the president in the 2027 election. Now we've spoken severally about the fact that this issue has been politicized so much that this is where it has brought us to. I mean, isn't this what is being done in this particular instance by the minister of the Federal Capital Territory? I mean, what does this have to do with the issue on the ground?
So, Mr. Wike, if nothing at all, is a very entertaining individual. He always brings to fore, those common discussions you would find that usually at those drinking holes in the evening when you gather and people start drinking and they're a bit intoxicated and start saying stuff. That's what those are the That's what I get when I hear him talk a lot of times, especially when he's having his media parties and when he's discussing. It's not an engagement. It's just, it's a very laid back, drinks on the table kind of thing discussion. So in his comments, he talks about how in 2015 this was the same. He said a lot about position. One of the questions I always have for Mr. Wiki is that I don't even know what side of the table he sits on. He's basically one of those people he's been striding both paths, because I remember I think in the last few weeks, the what is supposed to be the major opposition party, the PDP, were trying to resolve or trying to sort out their issues and trying to call for their convention. And he basically told them that they would not be able to do anything and move forward if they don't involve him as a member of the party. He's still officially a member of the opposition. So when he says the opposition, he maybe needs to be a bit clearer in terms of who he's speaking about in terms of the opposition, but because he still claims to be a leader of the opposition, because he has not dropped his party. He's someone who's basically playing both sides and hoping that, I can destabilize one side or I can keep it open in case I need to fall back on it at some point.
Trying to have your cake and eat it, more or
That's what
less.
he's doing at the moment, and he's been doing that since he lost out at the primaries or his party's primaries, and has now been given the cozy job of leading the FCT, where he now takes his kids around as co owners of the position of the chair, because it's now a traditional title. Now, if you look, he says a lot of things. Said in 2015 it was the same thing taken done by the opposition. Who was the opposition in 2015, if I may ask? Because Nigerians have been known to have, we have this collective amnesia that when our political, I don't even want to use the word leaders, when people in political position, leadership positions, make comments like this, there are not enough people asking them to speak the details. He speaks about how the opposition in 2015 did it. The opposition in 2015 are now the current ruling party, of which he's a minister of. So he's accusing today's opposition for doing the same thing that the previous opposition did, who he now feels that, oh, they are what to serve under. So it just tells me about his level of ethics in really, that it's just about the day. Let's win what we can win for today. So tomorrow he'll probably come with a new discussion, because the mythical opposition, and there's I'm not even sure we have a structured opposition in Nigeria today, but the mythical opposition, or saboteurs like they used to use in the former previous regime, have always been an easy target to point out when there are failures in the work of the leadership or the current leadership. They always point to someone, either it's saboteurs, or they call up the opposition in whatever form of guise that they exist in.
Right, right.
And that's one of my challenges. We are running away from facing what the issue is. I don't subscribe to any entity or any part of the country going abroad to go and seek for solutions to our internal problems by going to another government and saying, you know what, come and help us solve our problems. I think it's the height of shamelessness. So I'm not supporting what he's claiming that the opposition is doing, but I'm just reminding him that he needs to check inwards before he starts making some of these comments. Because people that live in glass houses should not throw stones. The thing is that we have played this game for too long. Instead of facing the issues, what we tend to do, what our governments and officials and people who support them tend to do, is try and obfuscate the issue, try and make a mockery out of it, try and entertain Nigerians, try and reduce the issue to saboteurs, opposition activity, and everything seems to lie and die and rest on the altar of politics in Nigeria, and not on finding solutions or solving problems.
We've done that for way too long, and that has put us where we are at the moment. Always politicizing the issues that should not be politicized at all. You would think that someone in Minister Wike's position would be talking about, okay, now that we're here, what are we going to do going forward? But no, it's all about smokes and mirrors and trying to distract from the real issues that are on the ground. We've gone way beyond that point right now. That is not what we need as we try to move forward. Let me take a message or two before we come back into the stories. Cisco Delgado says, Chibuzor, the worst thing now is traveling with fear. Sometimes at Benin bypass, our boss ran into armed Fulani bandits. How do you know they are Fulani bandits specifically? But as God will have it, our driver was able to take a very drastic action immediately by taking one way and alerting other coming vehicles to turn back. He then says, are you saying that we as Nigerians cannot contain this ugly trend by doing the needful? Well, if we could have contained the trend, we wouldn't have a certain American president saying what he said and letting everybody who is in charge to be running helter skelter. Don't you think? He then says, there's nothing like accusations from the opposition. Besides, it's not a must that President Tinubu will emerge the winner in the 2027 elections. Well, unless he has something to say about that. Let's not politicize this genocide issue currently ongoing in Nigeria. The American embassy is here in the country. They have their facts to say that Nigeria is a country of particular concern. Fabian Inekwe says, Fabian, there's no mind in the studio. Instead of the government putting on its thinking cap to face the issue of insecurity and safety of its citizens squarely, it prefers to send its sycophants and praise singers to speak. Where are we headed in this country? Are these the people we want to lead us come the next election? Well, that's something that we as a people will have to determine ourselves. Let us slip into the Guardian right now, and let's talk about matters concerning security issue. I can put it that way. Where the Lagos State Police Command on Monday declared Nigerian activist Omoyele Sowore wanted for allegedly organizing a protest aimed at disrupting public peace. Now, the Commissioner of Police, Moshood Jimo, made the announcement at the Anoro area of the Third Mainland Bridge, accusing Sowore of instigating unrest during demonstrations against government demolitions in the Oroshoki area. Now, he said, and I quote, as Commissioner of Police, I hereby declare Omoyele Sowore wanted for acts likely to cause public disorder.
Man, you know, at times coming to read the news in Nigeria or coming to comment on news items in Nigeria just feels like going around in a circle. We never seem to come out of that loop. Um, the police has, or the commissioner of police himself, because he's taking upon this he's taking upon this very important action to declare Omoyele Sowore wanted. Whatever it is, I would advise that Omoyele Sowore goes there, goes to Police HQ Lagos with his lawyers and makes himself available for whatever reasons they want. Um, I'm not a lawyer, but when I look at what he's claiming, I do hope that his claims are based on actionable information and knowledge. Because he's saying that, oh, they're accusing him of instigating unrest during the demonstrations against the government demolitions. It's a mouthful. So you have evidence of him planning to disrupt activities. That is why you have
Public
declared
peace.
public peace. In what form we don't know, but yes. So it's a question for Moele Shore to answer. My concern with things like this is that we always seem to spend a lot more energy trying to repress opposition. I'm using the words of the honorable minister and former governor, or anything. And when we mean by opposition is a broad thing, from the opposition parties to anything that does not seem to either echo or re-echo or amplify the positions of the government. So anything that seems to be anti, either drawing attention to something or the other.
Mm.
In a lot of cases, you're even drawing attention to causes that the individuals who are now in government used to previously champion, has now become, acts that need to be suppressed for public safety. So yes, the our security forces have a wide remit to define what is against public safety. So they are within their position, but it'll be good to test this and see how this stands up when when you declare somebody wanted, it goes, you have to charge him or look for something to charge him because you just can't keep it hanging unless we are finally become a lawless country, even in practice. So my own concern, like I said, is that the police spends a lot of energy doing things like this. This seems to be our primary focus. Unfortunately, if it's not this, then it's roadblocks. If it's not roadblocks, it's tinted vehicles. I am hoping that one day Nigerians will actually feel that one of the things that the police are taking up seriously is actually about the security of the Nigerian people who pay their salaries from their taxes, even if those salaries seem to be deemed to be inadequate. But the taxpayers still are responsible for paying this. Not these guys that they are already chasing after in Abuja. That money is not taken from their personal pockets. It's taken from the money that has been paid for people like you and I, who at the end of the month are being debited. And by next year, a lot more Nigerians will face that impact. So maybe when more Nigerians face that reality about how they fund things like this, Nigerians also be ready to hold them accountable the same way I'm asking Nigerians to hold our governments accountable.
Mm.
Because it seems like one of the challenges of people who are in power in Nigeria is that not enough people are holding them accountable, are interested in holding them accountable.
All right, let me take a message or two before we jump into another story very, very quickly here. This one is, let me see. Good morning, Ayokunmi and Chibuzor. The imposition of sanctions being considered by the US lawmakers on those complicit in the unending terrorist attacks across the country is also a welcome development, as whatever measure necessary to end the menace should be pursued. And that's from Ajay Udonilua in Magodo Jerry. Good morning to you, Ajay. Great to read from you as always. This is Lekon in Lagos, a lengthy one as usual. I'll see how I can compress it. Good morning, crew. With the killings of people in Benue, Plateau, Taraba, even Kwara, Ondo, and so on, it's clear like daylight that we have a genocidal attack against Christians in Nigeria with what happened to Deborah Shaibu and uh, the large number of people killed in Benue. It's not glaring, or is it not glaring? Even Nigeria is now a gangster paradise. What a price we have paid. The government has destroyed our history, culture, divided the people on ethnic, tribal, and religious grounds, and made us a world's laughing stock in the Committee of Nations. Um, Lekon, I will only speak to the facts, and that's all I will say concerning the rest of your message. But thank you very much. Like I said, I needed to compress the whole thing because it's really really lengthy, so I can take a few more. Daniel in Festac says, "Good morning, Smooth. The responses by the government to Trump's ultimatum are disappointing and annoying. Wike is a bad politician and leader. Instead of him to say we'll end the violence and prosecute the perpetrators and their sponsors, they're busy blaming opposition and pointing fingers. We don't have a government, just opportunists. I thank Trump for making insecurity the main topic rather than reflection politics." All right, Chibuzor, very quickly, let's talk about Meta. This issue raged for a while, and I think it has come to a conclusion here. In the Premium Times is where the story is. Meta Platforms, that's the parent company of Facebook and Instagram, has settled out of court its dispute with the Nigerian government over a $32.8 million data violation fine lingering since February. Just run through this one for us.
So sometime in February, we there was some notification of the fact that I think it was the NDPC who had fined Meta. I think they had started rolling out enforcements of the NDPR, which is the Nigerian Data Protection Law regulations, and Meta was one of the entities that had been called to book around that point, and they had been hit with this heavy fine. The initial response from Meta was that they were going to pull out, they weren't going to pay, and afterwards we had the government obviously took a harder stance on it and said, we don't care if you move out, we'll just pay. And what we heard was that there was some negotiation. So according to this piece, it seems or appears that some settlement has been reached. Now, given the amount of money that was involved in the original fine, it will be interesting to know because I can only imagine the number of things that money can do if it's put to the right use in quotes.
Right.
So what I would want as a citizen of the country is some transparency on how much or what was actually reached in terms of the settlement.
That
Because
seems that seems
my
so much to ask for.
yes, somewhere at the bottom of my heart, I suspect that we would have a precedent that says that one of the terms of the agreement was that this would be kept under wraps. Because I know that at that point, one of the things that the government kept on raising was there had been other fines across, I think in India against Meta, which they had paid, and so Nigeria was going to get its own pound of flesh. So I do hope there will be some level of transparency. I might be hoping for too much, but in these years of renewed hope, what else can I do but hope? So let's see how this ends.
What else can we do but hope in this era of renewed hope? Let me take your messages as we rush out of the studio. This is Isiaka Agege who says, "Blood in exchange for oil, very sad and pathetic. All about paying the price." All right. This is Joseph Mania. He's in Silver State out there in Ejibo. He says, "It's unfortunate how impunities and shenanigans in governance in Nigeria. Listening to Wiki and others like him feeling the already tense situation in the country. Remember, he once said that the president is lenient and obeys the rule of law. Otherwise, Sore would have been treated specially." That's in quotes. Now, there's a threat of invasion from the American government for nonchalant behavior towards all the killings and terrorism and kidnapping in the northern region, really in the country as a whole, so as northern region. Yet, rather than fix the problem, he's saying that it's the opposition trying to destabilize the government ahead of the elections in 2027. This is Uluwashe, who says everything that has happened in the last couple of weeks, from the alleged coup plot, Christian genocide accusations, Nnamdi Kanu protests, and more, are all a culmination of issues that have been allowed to fester for too long. The political class has gone so far off normal, decent, acceptable human behaviors, and something has to give. The US won't need to put boots on the ground, and they won't. A few surgical airstrikes and sanctions against the political elite will do the trick. This is Jerry, who says, "Good morning, all. Good morning to you, Jerry. I can't explain the joy in my heart over the coming to our rescue by Donald Trump. Can't wait to see. Can't wait to see those elements detonated. Thank you. Sorry, thank God." Jerry, I had to be very, very careful with the use of words there. Still morning radio. Tony from Marine Beach says, "I really cannot yet make any sense out of all these arguments by our government against the United States. If it's true that they're killings, whether Christians or Muslims, they should seek for help. I don't think there's any shamelessness in getting whatever kind of succor to this menace right now. It's a last resort. We're sick and tired of hearing of death of Nigerians every day. Any kind of deliverance is welcome. I'm sure the US have their own copy of the list of 400. Some quarters are shaking now, I'm sure." All right, thank you, Tony, for your message. Fabian says the Commissioner of Police should consult the legal department of the police force, as he appears unaware that only a court of law has the sole authority to declare a person wanted and issue a warrant against the suspect. He should focus on protecting the citizens of Lagos State from touts and get his officers who are setting up illegal checkpoints off the streets. The police should stop its overreaching authority. All right, thank you for that message, Fabian.
Yeah, sorry, I always join. What Fabian raises is quite pertinent. We see, it's almost shocking and surprising that the Commissioner of Police, or someone in that position, would make statements like that, given what the law says about it. Even if he has those powers within these laws, and I'm stretching it within the laws, it's not something that's just made based on how he thinks or feels at a particular point. But hey, what do I know? He's the Commissioner of Police.
Hmm. All right, we need to wrap it up here, and I will say just a bit of what Tony said in his message, that he doesn't think there's any shamelessness in getting whatever kind of succor to this menace right now. I think we've got to a point where we probably need to, put two and two together and realize that it doesn't seem like the government actually wants any help in dealing with this particular issue. I guess the status quo is actually what works for them. You know what they say, that whenever there's chaos and there is unending wahala, as they say out there on the streets, there's someone who is always profiting in one way, shape, or form. These issues are not issues that cannot be dealt with. We've gone for way, way too long. Too many years, decades have passed, and we're still having these conversations. Nobody can tell me that a solution to this problem cannot be found. And we just needed someone out there to, shout and make us shake in our boots before we realize that we need to do something. Nah, I don't buy that. Anyways, we need to wrap it up on the show this morning. Thank you all so much for your messages and your contributions. Thank you so much to you, Chibuzor, for taking the time out to join me in the studio this morning.
Thank you very much, Ayo. Thank you very much, Lagos. Thank you very much, listeners, from wherever you're in the world.
All right, have a great Tuesday and a great rest of the week as well. And make sure to keep it tuned to Smooth 98.1 and the Smooth Breakfast 8:15. It's a Tuesday. You know what that means. Entertainment and all the good gist in the grapevine. My name is Ayokunmi. Come stay with us.
The stories